I was having difficult, it was difficult getting in here, kids. How is everybody? I feel like I haven't been here in like forever. Forever in a dog's age. Okay. I got a lot going on, kids. Let me know that you're here. I love all my people. I've been going through some stuff and I just don't have the bandwidth for everything. I don't deal with stress well. So here we are. I am so happy to be with you guys. I don't know what we're going to talk about other than, you know, the YouTube streets and all of the things. So welcome in. Welcome into Amy Boston. We're going to talk about some shit. I actually wanted to know, this is what I was thinking about today. Do you guys know the Netflix documentary of the trial for with Sean Ellis? This case is will blow your mind. You think Karen Reed's bad? This is pretty bad. I kind of wanted to go an overview of what happened to our friend Sean Ellis in Boston. And Sean Ellis spent over 30 years of his life in maximum state prison for a murder of a Boston police officer that he did not commit. And I kind of wanted to go over some of that in some of his battles with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. There hasn't been much. I have tapped out of all of the other. Oh, hello, Christine, my lovey, my work wife. Welcome in. Um, I've tapped out of all the other Massachusetts cases because I just don't have the bandwidth to like hate. I got enough shit in my life to deal with than to like pseudo represent people that like I just don't have the bandwidth to help. So I support them. I Turtle Boy does not deserve to be in jail. Karen Reed should be left the fucker alone. All the hate within all of the people that were boots on the ground and supporters is tragic because that's not what it was originally about. And that's enough of that. Drew K, I love you, baby girl. I'm so happy that you're here. Um, so I am gonna go into some Sean Ellis, and we're gonna go back into time with happened with our friend Sean Ellis. Tell me in the chat if you know anything about the Sean Ellis case from the 90s. Sean Ellis was he was wrongfully accused of a murder of of a Boston police officer, and he spent decades in prison. Oh, for fuck's sake. I am struggling. I am on the struggle bus today. For a murder he did not commit. And it took 4 trials to get him exonerated. And I'm not sure that I'm going to get a copyright for this. Innocence Lost, Sean Ellis, trial for story of a malicious prosecution. I am going to give this person kudos, and we are going to go through it because it is absolutely horrifying what happened to this man. And this is who else is here? Hey JTG. Hi Jay Warren. Hi Rita baby. Hello Rita baby. Um so tell me how many people have heard of Sean Ellis in trial 4? Um oh, it's Hate. Hi Hate. Hi my love. Hi. Hate is our human resources department here at the Amy Boston channel. She's the love of my life. Um tell me what you guys know about Sean Ellis and we will go from there. How many people know the saga which was Sean Ellis? Trial 4 on Netflix. If this doesn't send you into a tizzy about the corruption that is part of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, this is very eye-opening. No, nothing. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna start here together. Um, I have had the privilege of speaking to Sean Ellis. He is doing very well now. We're gonna put this out there. He is an advocate. He is an amazing man. He spent 30 years of his life in maximum state prison for a murder he did not commit. And after 4 trials, he was exonerated. And this is the shit that Massachusetts does. So there's that. There is that, kids. I hopefully don't get copyrighted. I'm actually going to put up a banner. Okay, kids. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. We are researching this to show that Karen Reed is not a one off. Okay. This is not a one off. Massachusetts has been doing this for decades. Okay. I grew up in the neighborhood of High Park where this happened. Okay. And, and this poor boy, um, hold on, where are my comments? I didn't follow Sean's trial, but God bless the man. He's been through it. Yes. Trial 4, his lawyer was Rosemary. She was awesome. Oh, hey Wayne, baby. It was oh so very sad. This boy had a stutter and it worked against him in interrogation. This boy was literally going to get his cousin diapers for his baby and was pinned he was pinned on a murder of a cop outside of outside of a Walgreens on American Legion Highway, and that was that. And it turns out it was a woman of the night that actually ended up offing him. Yeah. So we're going to get into it a little bit. How do you guys feel about that? Let's start it. I'll probably have to change the let me change. Can I change this? Hold on. Sean Ellis recap. Sean Ellis case recap. And I want to continue following this case because it is absurd. And what he has done with his life is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I will. I will pause every so often. Um Hold on. Good grief. What is happening? Um How come I can't? How come I can't change it? Oh, right here. Hold on. I can't. I'll change it after. Okay. Alrighty. All right, kids. We are going to pause and we're going to talk about this. This is from Crime in Court with Heather. Thank you, Heather, for letting us react to this. This is a good overview, and then we'll get in further into his case because it is a doozy, kids.
Hello, hello, and welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is another episode of my Innocence Lost series. So every week, I select someone who is either incarcerated or has been exonerated for a crime that they did not commit. And we talk a little bit about the crimes, what happened in regards to why they were looked at wrongful, why they were the suspects, if there was even a reason or what led to their wrongful conviction. So we look at these things may have gone with them. So today's episode, I'm excited to bring this one to you because with the recent Karen Reed trial that happened and the mistrial and everything that was going on, a lot of people compared the Karen Reed trial to this particular case, which is also in Massachusetts. So it's the Commonwealth versus Sean Ellis, and he was tried 3 times.
There was 4 trials to get him off of a first-degree murder conviction of a Boston cop. 4 trials. If you want to go on to Netflix, it is trial 4. Unbelievably maddening. Okay. Sean Ellis is a great man and does great things now. He is an advocate and he is a good man. Okay. I just want to put that out there. I know this for a fact. Okay. So just keep in mind that this poor man was railroaded by the Boston police. The same district as the John O'Keefe where he worked. Keep this all in mind. Everyone's in bed together.
He didn't commit. He was almost tried a 4th time until he was finally exonerated. And we're going to get into it. We're going to read through some of his story and read some of his commentary that he's made. He's very outspoken. He's very intelligent. He's very outspoken now as a advocate for reform for the justice system. So I love what he's doing now and the things that he has been trying to make happen in the justice system. He's asking for change, for reform. So you might know of this case because it was on Netflix. There's an 8-part series on Netflix. I'm not going to do an 8-part series here. I'm going to just give you some of the highlights, talk about the evidence, talk a little bit about Sean, and kind of go from there. So let's begin. I am on the justiceforseanellis.com page. And I'm going to be reading through some of these points of his case. Something that he has said, which is a famous quote, and he has also written an article about this, which we will read. It is called "Wounded but Not Broken." I may be wounded, but I'm not broken. Sean K. Ellis, advocate for criminal justice reform. Sean K. Ellis. Sean K. Ellis was convicted in 1995. Some of you watching probably weren't even born then. And that's I was younger. I was in my younger years at that time. Probably not much younger than Sean at this time. All right, so Sean K. Ellis was convicted in 1995 at his third trial. So the first two trials ended in a mistrial. And if you're interested in why mistrials and why can people get tried again if a jury didn't find them guilty in the first place, we're going to be talking about that in my next episode of the Canton Cover Up, episode, I think it's 52 or 53. We're going to be talking about that. I'm going to be going over a paper of a legal paper regarding changing that possibility to get retried for something you weren't found guilty of. Because a mistrial just means it's a win for the defense, because it means that the Commonwealth or the state, whoever is pursuing the charges, they lost. They didn't prove their case. So it is a loss. It is definitely a loss for them. Uh, anyways, so what happens after mistrials? We're going to talk about that in the next episode. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss that. And also, please hit the like button in this episode because it'll help push it out to more individuals that can get this information. All right, so he was put on trial for at his third trial. He was convicted for the 1993 robbery and homicide of a Boston police detective, John J. Mulligan. Sean's first two trials ended in hung juries, which is exactly what happened in the Karen Reed case. Her first trial ended in a hung jury. Since he spent 21 years, 7 months, and 29 days behind bars until May 2015, when Suffolk Superior Court Judge Carol Ball overturned his convictions, ruling that due to police corruption and prosecutors' misconduct in his trial, justice was not done. That's a pretty big deal to have a judge overturn convictions. So Judge Ball granted him bail to await a new fair trial. And on June 6th, 2015, Sean was released. Charges were still looming over his head because the Commonwealth had intended to try him for a fourth time, even though the first times didn't stick. So accordingly, the court concluded that this is a case where justice was not done. Commonwealth of Massachusetts set the date for Sean's fourth trial for the homicide of Detective John Mulligan. Sean's defense attorneys, Rosemary Scapicchio and Jaleese McDonough, who are in the documentary.
So he was represented by um God, what is her name? Scapirio. God, I can't. Rosemary. Yes, Rosemary. He was eventually represented by Rosemary, and Netflix trial 4, he was actually acquitted and given a ton of money because he was not guilty. And it come to turn out that a woman of the night is the one that shot him in the head in his cruiser outside a Walgreens parking lot where Sean Ellis was going in to get his cousin diapers for her baby.
They went to work determined to prove his innocence. Then abruptly, on December 2008, the homicide charges against Sean. In 2021, Sean's 1995 weapon convicted conviction was overturned by final in 2020. The city of Boston awarded Sean 16 million atonement for misconduct by Boston police. Not only was it Boston police, but also the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in the way that they went about prosecuting him, which is why I titled my episode whatever I titled it. Netflix's Trial 4, a story of malicious prosecution.
You, you guys go watch
Because
it.
not only was there and going on regarding the law enforcement Commonwealth covering it up, covering up the corruption and the crap that was going on with the very officer that was found to have lost his life. Plethora of individuals who might have wanted him to no longer be breathing. All right. So Netflix's Trial 4 came out in November 2020, an original 8-part documentary series about Sean Ellis. And I do recommend it. It is very good. It goes through the whole process. So that's a little bit about Sean. Let's look at Sean's early life. Sean Ellis was born in Boston in July 1970. Mary Ellis and her husband, John Ellis. The couple lived in Glendale. And I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing these like a Bostonian. I'm from Chicago, and I talk like a Chicagoan. But I love the Boston accent, and I wish I could talk like that. All right, so the couple divorced, and she moved. How's it? A better education for two opportunity that buses selected Boston students to high performing suburban schools. So this smart lady, Mary Ellis, found this opportunity and she's like, "Well, I'm sending my kids to the best school there is in their area where there's opportunity for them." And they went to a high performing suburban school. The benefits flow both ways. For the primarily white outlying schools, benefit from the injection of diversity. Sean, his sister Janelle, and their brother Joseph Moody were all enrolled in the Needham, Massachusetts schools. And there is a really cute picture of Sean. Look at his cute little mug there, back in whatever grade this is, 1983. And I just want to say, I'm digging this girl's outfit. I know I had an outfit very similar to this and probably wore my hair like the same way. I mean, that's not me, but it could have been. It looks like pictures I have of myself when I was probably about that age. All right, so Sean Ellis in third grade. This is his third grade picture. Um, Typically, just one or two African American students were placed in each suburban classroom through the METCO program. So that's pretty awesome, giving them the opportunity for a better education. This section's really sad. So, mourning his brother in 1984, Sean's brother Joseph, a popular and witty student at Needham's Pollard Middle School, tragically drowned at a classmate's pool party one hot June day. He hadn't told anybody that he couldn't swim. This is terrifying and sad. And everybody, make sure your kids know how to swim, or at least tell them if you don't know how to swim, stay out of the water. All right, so after Joseph's loss of life, Sean would ride his bike over to his brother's grave and sit on the grass all afternoon gazing into the distance. He eventually asked to leave the Needham schools. By that time, his mother had moved back to Dorchester, and Sean transferred to Dorchester High School, where he played football and was interested in computers. He graduated in 1992. He's a few years older than me. All right, so Hansborough Boy. During the early 90s, Sean's mother's corner of Dorchester was a hotbed of street violence. As a teenager,
Am I muted? Okay, back to what I was saying. Um, in Boston, there was busing. So there was a program called MECO that gave kids from what people would consider ghetto, violent, gag related areas, and it gave them a hand up to go to a suburban school where they would get really good education. They showed excellence in education, and unfortunately he got sent back to his district where it was poverty and gang ridden and all of those things. I grew up in the same place that hi just me. um High Park was not as bad back then, um but he did get sent back to a part of Boston that was not getting the scores, um and it kind of put him at a disadvantage, what is really sad because he was a very bright boy, and he ended up going Needham, which is a really good school, and he had to go back. So that's saying that he had to go back and so on and so forth, which is a detriment to his education. Okay, I just wanted to like preface that for anyone who didn't know that. And kids who were in the more working class um, neighborhoods of Boston, we would get sent to the places that they didn't want. Sean had to go to Needham, so some of us kids who were in middle class neighborhoods had to go to those schools. So that created a bigger problem within Boston society back then. It was called busing. So I just want to put that back into the conversation.
Sean cast his lot with a group of friends who hung on Hansborough Street. Termed a posse by police, the boys were nonetheless devoted friends who provided each other security and support, often in lieu of families. When streets became battlefields, they watched each other's backs and, in being together, felt safe. a band of brothers, so to was Sean looking for brothers? Looking back, he believes he was. After graduating high school, Sean looked unsuccessfully for jobs. Quote, I sent out job applications but got no replies, he recalls. By his own admission, he had a few, quote, run ins with the law as a teen, most stemming from domestic disturbances. There was discord at home, fueled by drug use. Sean greatly disliked his mother's live in boyfriend. Disputes arose, and his mother, Mary Jackie Ellis, called the cops a couple of times to teach Sean a lesson. And with the loss of a sibling or a son, I'm sure there was a lot of um, undealt with emotions in that home that might have been dealt with in other ways, not healthy ways, I'll say. All right, so in one such incident, Sean took his 2-year-old sister for a walk around the block to escape a noisy argument and soothe her crying. Suddenly felt a policeman's tap on his shoulder, and Sean was arrested for kidnapping. The cheater dropped. That's ridiculous. Why would you call? That's crazy. All right, looking back on the dangerous city streets he negotiated daily as a teen, Sean Ellis had said more than once, if I'd not been in prison, I definitely could have been life ended, had his life ended. All right, early life. Let's go on to. So in 1993, Sean was considering entering a mechanics program at the urging of his cousin Tracy Brown, who was who was whose life was taken 3 days after Mulligan. That's awful. He probably didn't even get a chance to mourn his cousin. All right, so then came John Mulligan's homicide and Sean's arrest. He spent his last free day on October 5th, 1993. Despite negative press commentary about Sean in the wake of his arrest, former Boston Globe columnist Mike Barnicle, citing no specifics, called him, quote, a one-man crime wave. Should never been charged with street violence and small stuff in Dorchester District Court that was going to be dismissed, Boston Globe reporter John Element told author Elaine Murphy in a phone interview. Well, this is a picture of crooked cops, crooked detectives, Kenneth Sarah, and um, are the conviction. There are details of criminal case against John as well. We went into a little bit of but if you guys want more, then I recommend you let me know, and I can more on Ellis case. So in prison, in his near 22 years of incarceration, Ellis was a model prisoner rising through the Massachusetts correctional system and earning certification as a paralegal via a correspondence course. He's a paralegal now. Like he taught himself how to become a paralegal in prison. And he doesn't quit. Like he's been very much a self advocate while he was in prison. At medium security MCI Norfolk, he was one of the select groups of inmates trained to counsel at risk youth. Sean Ellis is quoting from prison, writing from a Norfolk prison in 2013. He's quoted saying, quote, to the negative to better myself, end quote. Here is a letter from prison that he wrote, which I think is interesting. So in fall 2013, Sean Ellis sent letters to the Urban League, the N dozen social injustice and legal organizations, asking their help in bringing attention and a voice to rectify his wrongful conviction. And here's his letter. So this is when he was still currently incarcerated. My name is Sean K. Ellis. I am currently incarcerated at CI Norfolk, serving a natural life sentence for a crime I did not commit. Since my arrest, I have dedicated myself to prove innocence. My attorney and my family have been instrumental in this endeavor. For the last 10 years, he was working with the same attorney for 10 This is how hard it is to get a conviction overturned. He was in prison for 22. So the first 12, or he had other lawyers that just weren't getting the job done or sticking with it, but for the last 20 years of his imprisonment, his attorney, Rosemary Scapaccio, has not only
Scapaccio.
been my representative, she has been integral in uncovering the hidden truths about the elements of my case and who may have taken the life of victim Detective John J. Mulligan. I did not do it. I am a 39-year-old native of Boston, Massachusetts, school in science I, where I eventually graduated. I am the father of a beautiful young lady named Tatiana. Unfortunately, I lost my father in December, and my mother is getting older seemingly fast. And that happens a lot when a family member is wrongfully in prison. You can see the way that the family members look and it takes a toll on the stress, puts you in a constantly stressful state and oftentimes it can lead to serious health conditions. All right, so while growing up, I had a few run ins with the law. However, this is my first and only incarceration. Since being incarcerated, I have invested in my growth and development as a human being by participating in many diverse programs such as Intro to Spectrum, Men's Work, Health Awareness, Four Phases of Alternatives to Violence Project.
Okay. So I'm going to come back up. Now, I just want to preface this all by saying Sean Ellis, I'm just going to put in some more detail. Um, Sean Ellis was a black man in the greater Boston area. It was called Rosendale, but it was on like the High Park border where I'm from. He was going in to Walgreens to get his cousin whose baby daddy took off on her and she needed help. He went to go get her Pampers. He was on his way out of Walgreens where it was found that Mulligan was shot in the head in his cruiser outside of Walgreens. I would like to also point out that this Walgreens still exists, still building, same place, everything. This still exists. Mulligan was not known to be a great up and up cop. He was the proctor of the late 80s, early 90s. He frequented prostitutes, he took drugs from people. He was a tyrant, okay? But blue blacks blue, right? Sean Ellis has a horrific stutter, okay? Not by his own admission, not by his own fault. And he was coming out and was profiled and brought into custody, and they badgered him so bad that they accused him of this murder with no gun, no ballistics, no fingerprints, no nothing. Boston is corrupt. And this is what happens, especially in the 80s, in the early 90s. Okay. I would also like to say my father, being an Irish immigrant coming to this country, was also treated horrifically as a Irish immigrant. Do you know why they call you ever heard the term paddy wagon? We call them paddy wagons here, which is actually an extremely derogatory term for when they used to pile up all the Irish people in what looks like a U-Haul van, pack them in there, and arrest them just for being an Irish immigrant drinking at the bars. They were really doing nothing wrong, but they were profiled, and the Irish were treated horrifically in the city of Boston, just like the blacks. Okay. None of it's right. Sean was profiled because they didn't want the Mulligan officer to be found out of what a piece of shit he was. I'm going to put that out there as we continue to do this. I just had to get that out there.
Success in leadership and communication and Jericho Circle Intensive, where I continue to be a facilitator slash circle guide. I don't know what any of those are, but they're some sort of organizations for his own growth and development. So these might be classes that that was available to him or opportunities that have. I'm on the board of directors of Second Thoughts Inc., an inmate run program at MCI Norfolk, and I am also an active member who takes part in counseling troubled youth. So this guy is a good guy. I mean, by all intents and purposes, from what we're seeing, he seems to have his act together. He seems to be like
That's a fact.
the model inmate. Furthermore, except for the fact that he won't admit that he did it, obviously everyone wants their inmates to admit guilt because everyone in prison's guilty. Sorry, just a little snark. All right, so furthermore, I am one of 5 elected men who comprise the executive board of the Norfolk Inmate Council. As a member of the executive board, my function is to meet with the superintendent and his administration to find viable solutions to the to the problems and issues that plague the population and facility. So this dude is an executive board member he's an inmate, but he's like the executive board member of the Norfolk Inmate Council. Cool. Lastly, I have obtained my paralegal diploma from the Blackstone Career Institute. Rather than succumb to the negative pressures of this penal setting, I continuously work to prove my innocence and to do better and to better myself. I don't know why I keep getting that wrong. I only mention these accomplishments as a testament of who I am as a person. I am the victim of the Boston Police Department has chosen to deny police requests in favor of covering evidence in my case and concealing the unscrupulous activities of rogue, dirty cops who manufacture the.
I am actually going to answer this question because we do have to stop and we have to stop so I don't get copyright. What was the cop doing to the prostitute that got him shot? He made her do actual favors for him and took her paraphernalia and blackmailed her to do whatever he wanted her to do in order to stay out of jail. But it was his girlfriend, a real peach, Rita, a real peach, a real peach. And the other cops got around him because they didn't want a bad name. Yeah, Jay Warren, I hate the world sometimes. And not all police officers are bad. I am pro police. I'm pro good police, but Mulligan was a piece of shit. Okay? Piece of shit. And here we go. We're going to go back.
For the evidence against me. And that, my friends, is the biggest problem we have, probably, in law enforcement or in the justice system, is that these rogue cops can just manufacture evidence and put anybody away. That's a lot of power to have. And that's a lot of you're getting it right and to not be a dirty cop. Detectives investigating my case, Kenneth Acera and Walter Robinson, have pled guilty to public corruption charges in federal court. A third detective, John Brazel, avoided prosecution by cooperating with federal authorities. So he ratted on everybody. All three of these detectives were responsible for producing the only evidence presented against me at trial. So these investigators, these dirty cops, their investigation is what put him behind bars. So therefore, he deserves either a new trial or the charges. The evidence is tainted. The integrity of this investigation was compromised from the very start with the involvement of Detective and Robinson, two homicide detectives. In, in fact, ironically, it was Detective Acera's niece that identified my photograph. Very interesting indeed. Only after speaking privately with him and Detective Robinson. So Sarah's niece is the one that IDs him, and she was spoken to privately by Detective Robinson. This happened on the heels of selecting two photographs of Picchio, has tirelessly worked to uncover other substantial evidence that further highlights this injustice. Sorry, my dog's making a bunch of noises. Her work has culminated into the filing of a motion for a new trial with an argument of actual innocence being presented. Aside from the civil big problem as to the whole conduct and dragging this out and not giving them discovery and turning over so they were still getting discovery until this fourth trial. Discovery that they should have had back in 1995 for the first trial. So tell me why that is. The Commonwealth has been withholding evidence that might exculpate this individual and potentially other like other authors on something to Mulligan or a- any one of his like informants or one of the perform car for him, things like that. So yeah, all of that was not brought out in discovery for Sean Ellis's first case. Not until Scapaccio, his attorney, came out and really dug into the evidence and looked at it. So, apart from the civil lawsuit, I still need your help in bringing attention and a voice to this injustice. I believe that my attorney, my family, and I would benefit from having your support. Will you stand with us? Please do not sit quietly when your voice can help free an innocent man. You can help my attorney if you have any questions about my case and or if you're interested in learning what to do. Respectfully, Sean Ellis.
Sean Ellis is
Three. What's over here? This is But Not Broken by Sean Ellis. It's kind of like a question and answer. So this was I don't know where this article necessarily was posted, if there's an original. Okay, so it's on the New England Innocence.org webpage. I clicked.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer this question. I have I have been corresponding with Sean Ellis. I send him my support. We talk about corruption in the state of Massachusetts, and he is one of the smartest, like most brilliant advocates that make it so that other constituents in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts do not go and have things happen the way that it has happened to him. And I give him so much credit. Like, he is just a good man. He is a good man. We have had correspondence.
Clicked on here too. So don't click on the wounded but not broken because you can't buy those
How-
shirts anymore, just an eye. Anyways, so let me make this a little bit bigger. It's very hard to read now. All right, so my name is Sean Ellis, and I was wrongfully convicted and imprisoned for nearly 22 years for a crime I did not commit. I've been through a horrendous suffered injuries. I have suffered pain, and I have suffered tremendous loss. This is, I mean, that first line is beautiful, or these first few lines are beautiful. And people need to understand when anyone is convicted or even goes to the level of, possibly a trial or, uh, it breaks the news, it becomes a media sensation, you are forever liable. And you can never get your life back. So these prosecutors who have the power to move forward with or dismiss cases really need to take that power seriously because I'm going to read that line again. I've been through a horrendous ordeal, and as a result, I have been deeply hurt. I have been vilified in the public eye. I have suffered injuries. I have suffered pain, and I have suffered tremendous loss. However, despite this grave injustice, I refuse to broke of inertia or defeatism. This concept of being wounded but not broken isn't isolated to those suffered at the hands of the criminal legal system. It encompasses those who have endured whatever hardships that life has thrown at them and have pushed back against it, refusing to let it crush them and sought a path toward healing. That's beautiful. Right, so how does it feel to still be fighting for some semblance of justice after nearly 30 years? As I await the court's ruling in my motion, he wasn't out yet. I am, or he wasn't free yet. He might have been out, but he on bail, but he wasn't free. I am reliving everything I've experienced while fighting this case for more than 28 years, and that is incredibly, tremendously stressful. And it's got to take a toll on you physically and mentally, emotionally, all of it. During that time, I lost so much. Dad died, firstborn nephew died, or died. My best friend died, and my mother was diagnosed with cancer. They all lived in Massachusetts, but I wasn't allowed to attend their funerals. The Department of Corrections didn't allow it because of the life without parole sentence that I was serving. This not only speaks to the inhumaneness of such a sentence, but it also speaks to the trauma and harm I've endured at the hands of the Boston Police Department and the criminal legal system. When I think about the impact this wrongful conviction has had on my life, I can't help but think about some of these things, along with the fact that while my mom continues to live, she has more years behind her than she has in front of her. While my loved ones are happy to have me home, I can't help but think about the detrimental psychological effects of incarceration, which have negatively impacted the quality of the relationships that I have with my siblings. You probably feel like you don't know them coming out of prison after 20 something years, and you're like, I know we grew up together, but I don't know anything about you anymore. I am able to keep fighting because though I am wounded by all of those losses, I remain unbroken. What would it mean to be fully exonerated of all your wrongful convictions? I know all too well that the Commonwealth is not doing justice. They are in the business of obtaining and sustaining convictions at all costs. I'm going to repeat that. Your DA's offices, your institutions pursuing charges on people, they are in the business of obtaining and sustaining convictions at all costs. That includes law enforcement. That includes the attorneys, usual, on the state side, the prosecutor, and sometimes even the judge. As seen in the Karen Reed case, I absolutely feel that Judge Bev is correct. All right, so if this was not their standard of operating, a standard procedure of operating, I would have never spent a day in prison for a crime I did not commit. I would have been released in 1998 when the information my attorneys and I were seeking, but the former DA's office withheld, resulted in the arrest of the low level players in the corruption scheme. I would have been released when it was learned that in 1994, a year after the homicide of Detective Mulligan, there was a simultaneous investigation underway into the conduct of the detectives on my case, Detectives Sarah Robinson and Brassel. I would have been released once it became known that Detectives Mulligan, Sarah Robinson, and Brassel, along with their supervisor, were present and participated in the kidnapping and robbery of local drug dealers just days before Detective Mulligan's. So the four of them, these four corrupt cops, were stealing from drug dealers. How do you think that's going to go?
Okay, so I'm bringing myself back up, kids. I like you have to understand these Mulligan was stealing drugs for themselves against drug dealers, but then pinning a murder of a cop that was likely unalived by the prostitute that he was blackmailing for his own benefit. These are the type of people we are dealing with. These are the type of people that we are dealing with. And this is why Massachusetts stopped dealing with it. We stood up. We stood up for Karen Reed. We are standing up for Sean Ellis. We are standing up for Kelsey Fitzgibbons. This is a systemic issue in the court of opinion, court of opinion, that these people need to be stopped. Am I right? Am I right? Right? These people live among us. These people are our law enforcements, putting innocent boys in jail for 22 years for something that they know he didn't do because of a cop's bad behavior. What is this reminiscent of? What is it reminiscent of? Name it. Name it in the chat. You know what I mean? It's disgraceful.
Former police commissioner knew the victim was involved in corruption and still placed this cadre of dirty cops amongst who he called the best and the brightest. Remember these names, Sarah Robinson and Brazil. They infected every aspect of the Commonwealth's case against me from the homicide to the armed robbery and right down to my remaining firearm charges. They cannot be parsed apart. So the firearm charges, I believe, are because they say he was in possession of the firearms, or his girlfriend was, of the firearms that he took from or the the weapon that he used and what they found, but I think it was planted, or I don't know, maybe not even, because if you think about the taillight pieces in the Karen Reed case and the undocumented searches that Trooper Proctor did, and how taillight pieces just kept
Appearing.
revealing themselves over days and days after the crime scene had already been released to the public, because it was never really secured in the first place. So all those taillight pieces that Proctor says he could have found, he could have just put them in a bag and said, "Oh yeah, I found them here," but didn't even go to 34 Fairview. You know what I'm saying? Like he could have just said, "Oh yeah, these were found on 34 Fairview on this day," and literally he just grabbed them from inside his desk, threw them in the envelope, and said, "Here's evidence." You know what I mean?
Hey, you guys, if you could definitely like the video, and if you're able to become a member to the channel. I'm trying to grow the channel so we can have some quality, like non-PC, like just really digging into these people who are making our government a gang. I've heard that the biggest gang in Massachusetts and other states, they're the biggest gang in America. Prove me wrong.
What I mean? Ooh, sorry, that was loud. That straw in there, it's like if you have it slanted in the very slightest, it makes a weird noise. Trying to get the air in there. All right, um, those are the charges. So he was charged with the homicide of Detective Mulligan. He was charged with armed robbery because he took Mulligan's the firearm charges, illegal possession of a firearm. So they were still trying to hold on to like that last remaining charge until they couldn't anymore. So when I think about a full exoneration, I first have to divorce myself from the reality of what I know and have experienced personally. What I can and will say is that for someone to exonerate Sean K. Ellis, the person making that decision has to be of such extraordinary character that they're willing to go against the status quo in order to do what is right and what is just. And that is a big problem in our justice system as well, because everybody just wants to go with the flow, just go with the status quo. If a judge ruled on this in the past as a no, then I rule no. Well, what's then why are you here, judge? If all you're going to do is rule a certain way that another judge rules, then why are you here? Aren't you supposed to be impartial and look at the evidence and tell us what's just and what's right, not let's just go with what that past judge said. It's maddening. I say extraordinary character because racism and biases exist within the criminal legal system. Both racism and biases exist within the office of the district attorney. Judge Ball exonerated me when she said that justice was not done, and the Supreme Judicial Court exonerated me when they affirmed Judge Ball's decision and referred to the revelations of the withheld evidence, specifically the involvement of Detective Mulligan in the corruption, as a game changer. I am grateful D.A. Rollins brought the fortitude and integrity of her life experiences with her to the office when deciding to assent on to my motion for new trial. I hope that the court will agree and allow the DA's office to drop the charges as they have committed to do so I can move on with my life. So, back at this time, DA Rollins was probably very new. She was elected into office. The DA is an elected position, and so she was elected while Sean was potentially awaiting to go to his fourth trial, which ended up not happening. So the fourth trial was this other DA who had been there for ages and didn't want to give Sean or hear from Sean's attorney anything other than that the Commonwealth was right. So they didn't want to hear any kind of um, conflicting beliefs or facts or evidence that went against what the Commonwealth stated had happened. So the former DA didn't want anything to do with it. He resigned after the election, and he didn't run again, by the way. So he actually just left office, but he resigned 3 months prior to when his term ended. So another DA came in the interim, and he's the one that dismissed the charges, which politically speaking, we think it's because DA Rollins couldn't really, well, she would have done it anyways, because she's the first woman and first person of color to be a DA in this district. So, her using her own life experiences and bringing that to the table, she can maybe look at things a little bit differently than the former acting DA. So that was the thing. So they knew that.
Okay, guys. So what do you guys think? Yeah, hey, thank you. Please try if you can. It's not like imperative, but if you could become a member to the channel and help us out, me and Caden are kind of in a tight spot right now for a plethora of reasons I won't get into right now. I will later when I am emotionally able to. um but oh, thank you, Rita. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, it means a lot to us. Me and Caden are going through a lot, specifically Caden, and I would like the kindness, and I will do member lives, and I will like hook you guys up. I'll be here more. I've just been through a lot of stress dealing with a boy that is going through a lot. So I just haven't been here, but I promise I will provide. And I like you guys have no idea how much it would mean to me to support my channel. You don't have to. Just being here is enough. Like truly. I just like, subscribe, the put the bells on, the liking the videos. It gets me out into the algorithm, and I really truly appreciate that. Um, my is her brother on trial for the big R? I don't know. I know. Hey, of all people, I know that you love me and Wayne and Scotty and all of my viewers. And I you guys have no idea how appreciative I am that you guys even want to watch me. I don't even like really know why you guys want to watch me, but I appreciate it, people. All right. I actually found a better um video that actually has the his lawyer that I think I might transition to that I just found. And I think that it'll be more beneficial to listen to them. They're lawyers, and they give. Oh, Daria, my love. Because you're look, I know. I love you too. I love all my subs, and I don't know why you want to watch me. but I love you all, you guys, and like you guys make my like life. You guys my outlet, and I absolutely love doing this for you guys. Daria, I love you, baby. Oh, you're the best of the YouTubes. Is hate. I mean, you're like my soul sister. Um, yeah, it's always good to see Daria. I just found your channel so far. I think you're doing a great job. It's not easy. I love your personality and your demeanor. Thank you, girl. Thank you, girl. Yes. All right. So I think we're gonna change to a different one that's a little more. Um, it's from 5 years ago, but it has his attorneys, and I think we can learn better. This right here is Sean Ellis. This is our boy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Radha Natarajan. I am the Executive Director of the New England Innocence Project, and I am honored to be opening this evening and this conversation. Full to see so many people here who have watched Trial 4 or who know Sean's story and who are hungry to hear more. We know that one story, we know it can energize and mobilize people to demand better. And it is important that it does. Sean's story is uniquely his, but what he suffered is unfortunately not. Systemic racism, police corruption, and sentences of incarceration. These are not featured in story or even wrongful convictions alone. They are characteristic of a system whose origins slavery, and it is important that we speak honestly about that history, that context, and the tensions. And that's the discussion we hope to start tonight. A discussion about the truths and myths of the criminal legal system, about the role to see changed and how you can participate in that. It's an ambitious agenda, and we're not going to cover everything that we'd want, but we see this as a beginning. We're going to need you to continue this conversation with us in the future. So for now, let's bring together the powerful voices we have gathered here tonight. I'm going to ask each person to introduce themselves and tell you why they wanted to participate in this panel tonight about systemic injustice. And of course, I will start with Sean.
Good evening, everybody. My name, as you know, Sean K. Ellis. I'm the subject of the Trial 4 docuseries on Netflix, which offers a snapshot glimpse into the horrors and the redemption of my life and what I've experienced for over the last 28 years plus. And so I'm happy to be here, and thank you for all of your support. You know, I definitely want you all to know that whether it's in my DMs or whether you're calling, I definitely hear you, and we definitely are connected. So, you know, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And now on to Rosemary.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rosemary Scapicchio. I'm a criminal defense attorney here in Boston. I was one of Sean's lawyers in the saga to try to get him free. And I'm here tonight because I want to continue the conversation about the systemic racism within the criminal justice system. And more importantly, I want to start discussing solutions, how everyone can get involved, how can effectuate change.
Thank you. And Devin McCourty.
Hey everybody, Devin McCourty, 11-year NFL player for the New England Patriots, and I'm here because I want to be a part of change. Very fortunate to play my 11 years with the Patriots and really have become a part of the community. I'm a part of the Massachusetts community. It's a second home for me, and I'm all about speaking out for the voiceless. And It's been a fun journey to be alongside some great men. As you see my brother on the call and other great men, a part of the New England Patriots organization. And we're here tonight to just voice what we've learned and how, as NFL players, we can have an impact and show other people how they can impact as well. Thank you.
Don't you guys just think it's absolutely amazing that Devin McCourty comes out and is putting his career and I think he's a doctor. He stood up like the rest of us saying, no, 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 this isn't gonna fly for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Okay. Rosemary is a straight gangsta. All right. She is absolutely amazing. And I am in love with Devin McCourty standing up for this. Is anyone else on board? Because that is absolutely amazing. Good grief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jason.
Yes, like Dev said, my twin brother, we played alongside each other for the last 3 years with the Patriots. Prior to that, I was in Tennessee. Excited to be a part of this panel group opportunity because what we do for a living, to lift platform and talk about issues that are much more important than the game of football, and trial for and hear about other stories like Sean. And I think it's something that goes on in our country, and it's something that we have an opportunity to have an impact on. So I'm very excited to be amongst these very smart individuals who know a lot more about the criminal justice system and about the things that go on than Devin and myself. And it's been important for us to educate ourselves and try to listen as much as possible to people who know a lot more. So just excited to see where this conversation is going to head tonight.
Thanks, Jason. And District Attorney Rollins.
Daria, it was 5 years ago.
Rod, and thank you for letting me be involved. I'm Rachel. I am Black Irish, episode 7, trial 4, and defied all the odds in Boston, in Suffolk County, and against the will of the mayor and all of the Boston police unions and all of the Irish elite, in the primary, and then one in my general election. I am the first woman in the history of Suffolk County to ever be elected DA, and I'm a Black woman, and have been my whole life. So this is not something I came into, and I speak very clearly about how hard it is to change a system that I was an outsider fighting to get in, and now I am part of that system. So I am part of law enforcement, and every day I work as hard as I can to talk about the things that we're going to talk about today and to change a system that is working exactly the way it was set up to work.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for having this incredibly important conversation. Now, we know that injustice flourishes in the darkness. And so we want to start today by shedding some light on the legal system. And again, I want to start with, from my work at the New England Innocence Project, I know that wrongfully convicted people have profound insight into the failures of the criminal legal system. From your experience, wrongfully convicted, what do you want people to know about the system that convicted you?
Yeah, the system that convicted me and that continues to convict Black and brown people, not just here in Suffolk County, not just here in Massachusetts, but throughout, the whole country, doesn't work. And I can say that from my own experience, having been the victim and survivor of the systemic failures that exist, and some of it is codified in policy, and so some of it is in law, but it's a racist system that has its roots in slavery, in terms of the having the creation of law enforcement being as slave catchers in all the way up to the present day, and don't people police and not necessarily what we have continued to face since we've been in this country.
Thank you, Sean. I want to turn now to Rosemary and Rachel. There
She's a
are
boss.
so many myths about the criminal legal system in the United States, from ideas about being blind to be foul, and from your experience working know about how it works and how it doesn't work. I'm going to start first with Rosemary.
Thank you. So what I want people to know is that right now the system is broken. And it's broken because of the systemic racism that exists within the system. It's difficult to get a jury of your peers. It's difficult to get the exculpatory evidence that you need to prove your client innocent. It's difficult to get white police to times. It's very difficult because I think when you're talking about jury impanelment, there's systems in places right now where certain DA's offices are running criminal records of jurors. And that systematically excludes a number of Black and brown jurors. And we're working really hard to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. There's also movement within the district attorney's office, and not necessarily Rachel, but within the district attorney's office, where they're trying to exclude all people under 30 to serve on jury duty. And people under 30 make up the biggest population of the city of Boston right now.
Okay, so I'm bringing myself back up. Can you imagine that they are trying to exclude the majority of the people that are coming up in America to be on a jury because the older folk, especially in Boston, with busing and systemic racism that was caused by our government, they want them to be on juries. They want them to be on juries. They have a predisposition to say all Black people are fucking criminals. Okay? Not true. I know plenty of white criminals. I know plenty of Spanish criminals. And I know plenty of great white people, great Spanish people, wonderful Black people. Like, this is what is the problem with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. If you look at the polls, even from Trump, I know this is like a touchy subject, but the people who are for Trump and the Iran war and all of that are over the age of 55 to 75. They don't even consider the younger people who are up and coming politicians who are disagreeing with that. So they want the older people who are not Sean Ellis's peers, because that's what it's supposed to be, to come and convict him of something he didn't do. Make that make sense, my friends. Make it make sense. Do you want 50, 60, 70-year-old people on your jury? Food for thought. Food for thought, kids.
And if we exclude people under 30 from jury service, then there's no way that any defendant can get a cross-section of the community. And if the system is going to work at all, we have to let it work the way it was intended. And so we systematically strike people from the jury, then it can't work the way that it intended to work. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. So instead of focusing on how convicted people out, I want to try to start focusing on how do they get wrongfully convicted in the first place. And I think it all starts with the jury. I think it starts with not being able, as a criminal defense attorney, and I've been doing this 30 years, not being able to impanel a fair cross-section of the community. Because right now in Massachusetts, age is not a protected class. And so district attorneys can excuse every single juror that's under 30 if that's what they choose to do. And there's not a lot we can do about it. We've been fighting against it. We think it's wrong. We think that the young people of America are changing the world. And so why can't they help us change the criminal justice system?
Thanks, Rosemary. What about you, Rachel?
Yeah, so, I come to this work as a daughter of a corrections officer and a niece of a state trooper for 30 years and have a respect for law enforcement, but also the sibling of several siblings that have cycled in and out of the criminal legal system. So we have communities that are over-persecuted, right? We have a police force that very often does not reflect the community that it's duty bound to protect and serve. They don't speak our languages. They haven't lived in our communities for a long time. And they might, as a result of veterans' preference, and I do believe veterans deserve a preference, maybe not every year, preference, that they don't have to live in the communities that they police. So these police officers use their discretion every day when they decide whether or not they give you a speeding ticket, or whether or not they FIO you, or whether or not they, in your communities all the time. So there's an over-prosecution. Poor people and Black and brown, and we've seen that with Harvard studies commissioned by the late and great Chief Justice Gantz in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We also have a system, and Rosemary knows this, where we have over 80 Superior Court judges in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. 3 of them are Black. 3, okay? And so, Rosemary, all of the defendants that you have with your extraordinary practice of, violent criminal.
Hold on. I am going to come up here and address this. My brother, who is a white male, he scored some of the highest scores trying to be a cop, and he did not get it because of DIE. I believe that whoever is capable of that should be let in, right? It's not about a Black, Spanish, Chinese, nothing. It has nothing to do with that. If you are smart and you ace those tests, you belong. Okay? You belong. And not for nothing, that would really, in my opinion, the corruption may stop. It may halter it, because you're getting these degenerates coming in with power struggling, and they're part of the stupid loser in high school that had something to prove. That's my opinion. I am not politically correct. So if you like politically correct channels, not this one. Not this one. All right, back to my diatribe.
Offenses that are charged, your defendants, are they 97% white? No, likely not, right? So we aren't represented. We are overrepresented in a system when it comes to harm, and significantly underrepresented decision about what. And to Rosemary's point, the hypocrisy that I see every single day in this system. To Rosemary's point, if people, my office included, are striking jurors that are under 30 years old and saying, oh, they can't make a decision and they can't decide, they don't even know which major they want yet, but won't bat an eye when a 15-year-old is charged as a youthful offender, or are fighting me tooth and nail when I say let's raise the age from 18 to maybe 19 or 20, or maybe even 21, brain science, which is what we are currently looking. Of course, yet another fabulous Rosemary's Cases. She has one of the seminal cases potentially before our Supreme Court. So there is tons of hypocrisy in this system. What is different about me is I'm speaking about it from this seat as the district attorney. They're used to the Rosemarys of the world and the Nadarajans of the world saying these things. And they like to say, oh, well, of course you're going to say that. You work at the New England Innocence Project, or Rosemary, of course you're going to say that. You defend these people, quote unquote. Well, these people are my people too, right? And now as the chief law enforcement officer, I'm comfortable saying it as well.
So to Dennis, you already mentioned this a little bit, but for at least the last year, you've been really trying to educate yourself. You've been working to bring awareness to the criminal legal system. You've been visiting courts. Why have you chosen to use your influence to bring attention to the criminal legal system? Can you, looking at this and educating yourself, you didn't know?
I guess I'll go first. I think for us, we back in 2017, we set up a listen and learn through the Players Coalition, which is based on two players, Anquan Bolden and Malcolm Jenkins, created the Players Coalition, where it's run by players. And through that, we set up these listen and learn tours that you plan or you learn about. And I think there were things that came up that just struck you and kind of startled you. Hearing the net worth of a black man in Massachusetts in Boston was $8. At that time, looking at an 8-year-old and have brought up and for me, it stuck out because when you're trying to get involved, I invited multiple teammates. But one of the key people, the president of the New England Patriots, and when he heard that, when he heard 7 years old, he said, "What?"
Hi, Rosie.
And right away he called people, and he wasn't aware of it. And I think that's what stuck out for a lot of us as players. But learning things firsthand really made us want to jump in and be involved. Hold on.
Oh no, this is the best part of it. Band-Aid on head. So hi, beautiful girl. Best part of my night, hands down. Go ahead.
And I think that's what encouraged us to do more. We felt as players, we always jump in for all of the feel-good stuff. Call it, raising money and awareness for cancer. Me and my brother do sickle cell, feeding different people. Like, we always jump in for the feel stuff. But I think this has been very fulfilling to jump in and help people out, that people throughout society throw. And this has been very encouraging. Just to put on around us lets us know that it is impactful. We hosted a DA with D. Rollins, and I've been impressed every time I've been in a room with her and hear her speak. And I think the change she shows as players and as people in society, just have to keep pushing.
Yeah, to what he said, and I think every virtual call or thing I've done with Dev, his kids always pop on. And I always text his wife and say, "Come get your kids." But to Dev's point, I think you saw in the NFL, starting kind of with Colin Kaepernick in 2016, players start really realize the power and the platform that we have to not only, like Dev said, talk about the different things that everybody agrees with, but to step up and talk about the things that kind of comfortable. And I think it was important to Dev and myself and a lot of our teammates to not only get in front of a camera and talk about taking a knee or talk about something this or talk about that, but to actually go and educate yourself. Like Dev said, hosting a forum, going sitting in court, actually seeing what the process is, trying to hear it and learn for yourself, to be able to educate, to be able to talk about it intelligently and be able to expand on what you've seen. And I think for us, it's been crazy just to not only learn about the criminal justice system, but to see how it starts so young, to go to some of the Black and brown communities and see what the education is like for them, how limited it is, and how there's a lack of resources, to see the school to prison pipeline and to learn how it's all being built and how it was kind of built to run exactly the way it's running. encouraged us, inspired us to try to do our part. They lifted up and give a platform to the Sean Ellises of the world to be able to tell his story so that people all across the world can turn on Netflix and learn about it and to see that. And I think that was one of the key things in watching it, to see how much he emphasized that it's not about him and it's about everybody that's going through similar circumstances. So I think it's just been inspiring of us just to hear the stories of Sean's and different people across
Sean
the
Ellis
New
is
England area.
right.
Try to lend it out.
Grateful all of the help and all of you for talking about the myths and sort of what's surprising you. For me, one of the biggest myths that I have seen, both as a public defender and in my work at the New England Innocence Project, is that prisons keep us safe. That's one, and that caging and getting harsher and harsher punishments will somehow create less harm. And this idea is embedded in American consciousness and our culture. It is the default that to, so much so that when we watch TV, we learn, we hear someone is arrested, and somehow feel safer. And say that it as increasing punishment or policing has never been shown to reduce crime rates. It does nothing to prove material conditions led to the harm in the first place. And as Sean, as so many exonerees know, prison takes away everything from a person, their family, their community, and it leads to generational trauma. And so it's important that as we discuss various aspects of the criminal system is functioning or not functioning, we'll talk about these ideas that fuel it and whether they're real or whether they're just things that we have come to believe. So, you know, we talk about, and we have to talk about, what is accountability without prisons? What could that look like? What about something that provides restoration for people who have been harmed and doesn't just discard or disappear those who we believe caused harm? And on that, I wanted to show all of you some data about, see if I can.
I'm not muted.
I don't know if it's going to work.
It will.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. All right. So I want to show all of you this data because I think it's really important to understand that when we look at the United States and even Massachusetts as compared to so many countries, and in this it's the founding NATO countries, you know, what we see is our over-reliance on incarceration. And we also see that it is a very American thing. It doesn't have to be that way, right? And the next thing that we see that goes along with that is that, and frankly, we could just do all night slides on racial disparities in every aspect of the criminal legal system. This is just in imprisonment, okay? And as Devin and Jason talked about, sort of how early it starts, like, so this chart is, you know, starting at 18, but it goes through the different age groups, and we could go much younger than that. And you would see this disparity where per population, you know, the orange represents Black men and the yellow white men. And it's extremely stark. You know, we can't talk about the criminal legal system without talking about race. And so that's what we're going to talk about now. I want to, again, turn to Sean because I want him to lead us with his experience. Sean, can you talk about the role that race played in your wrongful conviction and what you've seen? You've done so much work in the wrongful conviction community, how you've seen it play out in our community as well.
Yeah. So, race. What I can say about that is this: is that it was a white police officer, a white Irish police officer that, and I was a young black male from the inner city. And at that time, the way that black men, and still to this day, the way that black men are portrayed just throughout society is as the, the big boogeyman is someone and that you have to be afraid of. So when you look at criminalization of black and brown people throughout society, it's nothing to take one as community, because when you look at the Boston Police Department at that time, it was majority top heavy white men, and so it was nothing to levy not just the force and power that comes with one's badge, but the privilege that comes with one being white to be able to go into the community, kind of like as was done with like Emmett Till, and then you grab me out of my community and then you sentence me to die in prison for the remainder of my natural life, as though that doesn't have a human toll. But it isn't just about what happened in my case, because what happened in my case was, like I said, allowed to happen as a result of society. And so when we as a society have law that's practiced based on race, you get the Freddie Grays and Eric Gardner's and George Floyd's, like you get that kind of behavior that's levied by those who have power to levy it, because it's what's been going on throughout history. So, race doesn't just play a role in my case, but plays a role in the execution of criminal, of the day-to-day of a lawsuit.
I want to go back to Rachel first. You had said before that, it's working the way it's intended, and I heard the McCourty brothers talk a little bit about that. I heard Rosemary talk about it being broken. I want to focus on that point for a minute. Why did you say, Rachel, that it's working the way it's intended? Can you talk about that?
Because it was set up for us, but not by us, right? As Sean pointed out, police were essentially slave. There were slave brigade, or individuals looking for fugitive slaves, right? That ultimately turned into police departments. There is an entire system with our nation, right, where we weren't considered even full human beings up until a certain point of time, right? So the fact that an overwhelmingly white police force, an overwhelmingly white prosecutor's office, and I will also say an overwhelmingly white criminal defense bar, they are fighting the good fight. But this is not, we all have to work on the diversity that we have in our leadership and who we have representing or making these. We're making these decisions. If we look at some of the death penalty cases that happened in the minutes up until our former occupant of the White House left, it was not just bad prosecution that resulted in those, horrific circumstances. It was bad defense attorneys, right, who did their client and failed them, right? And the prosecutors failed as well. But of the last 5, there were 7 where it was criminal defense lawyers that did horrifically awful things. Making a murder, if you've watched that at all, it's like, and criminal defense attorney needs to be brought up on charges himself, right? So I look at that and just say, the system is set up for poor people and black and brown people to fail. It is fines and fees are basically paying on the best of poor people. And we have to understand that. I agree, some people say, it was set up to, and we just need different actors in these roles to say, hey, we're not doing that anymore, right? And to have unfettered access, which, you know, I've seen some of the comments. You know, there are people that might say, like, you know, you didn't allow my brother out, you didn't do this in this case. You know, we're going to always try to look at each case and make decisions based on what the facts show us. But I am always willing to hear from the criminal defense bar and others as to what we're doing wrong. And I think that is a 180 turn compared to some of my predecessors who never would be getting, you know, texted or called by a Rose Scarpicchio or the New England Innocence Project to say, we're going to try to do this. And maybe we don't agree all the time, but at the very least, I am willing to listen, which I think is a very different take many of my predecessors, my male predecessors, have had prior to me.
Rhonda, can I just jump in here for 1 second?
Please, yes.
Stand up for the criminal defense attorneys a little bit. And I don't disagree with a lot of what you said, Rachel, but here's a statistic that's pretty telling. And here's one of the major problems that I would like to start discussing. And that is that police misconduct occurred in more than half of all the wrongful murder conviction cases in Black people. Half. And the problem is there's no accountability. And so when someone like Sean spends 22 years in jail for a crime he didn't commit, and the district attorney's office dismisses the case but says, we still think he's guilty, we just can't prove it. What that does is it absolves them of having to take responsibility for what happened. So now the police department doesn't have to take any responsibility for their race conduct in this case. It was easier for them to believe that a young inner city Black kid did this than any of the 200 people that were on the tip lines saying that other people had killed Detective Mulligan. It was easier to believe that a young poor Black man did it. And so what have we done with these officers who literally railroaded a young 19-year-old Black man and caused him to spend 22 years in jail? I'll tell you, nothing. We've done not one thing. Every single one of those officers retired. The ones that weren't criminally prosecuted still have their pensions. The people that were on the Netflix documentary who said things like, this was a perfect investigation, I supervised this investigation, there's nothing wrong with this investigation, say things like that to deny accountability. They don't have to be held responsible. And then there's no investigation. So as you say, I absolutely believe that that were investigated by the people that were involved in Sean's case should be looked at in a systematic way, because we know these cops are dirty. We know that for crimes they didn't commit, accountable, evidence. 22. Then what are we doing? We're spinning our wheels. And the problem with what they did in Sean's case is when they don't take responsibility, they don't have to take action. And that's what's wrong with this case and many, many other cases.
And let me just reply. So you saw in episodes 7 and 8, I wasn't the DA when this happened. You saw that the office I inherited
Thank you
rushed
so much, Amber.
And I have openly said, I think that the way that this was handled was poor sport. It never would have been handled for me, right? With respect to how that office, that the individual who sat there speaking, who had been the DA for less months, didn't earn a single vote to become district attorney after Dan Conley left when his, heir apparent didn't win the primary. I get it, Rosemary. I'm with you. We've lied. What I've done since coming in is 240 years of people serving sentences that were wrongfully convicted and lambasted by the Globe, the Herald, every conservative person out there, racist zealots, and the two people that could be from Central Casting that make Archie Bunker look like, Martin Luther King. Those people that flitter, they're coming after me. I'm fighting this every single day and still getting. And this is what's tough when you do it. I get it. I asked for this role, but there are very few people when racist, police unions are saying he's incompetent. We're also other things. It's hard to stand up and say, no, I'm going to do this. But I have 240 years since I've been here for almost 2 years of people that are now home as a result of that. And all I can say is there.
Thank you to both of you.
You're muted, Jeff.
Sorry about that. Without a doubt, I just work close on it. I've got, when I was in Nashville playing for the Titans, a ride along with a police officer, and I got a chance to talk to an officer, and he talked about going through the academy of, say, I think he had an example of the officer that he worked with who grew up in a mostly white area and really didn't have any people around him that were different from the people, like think of conscious biases against anybody of a different race. But then he said, but when you look around, you turn on the TV, and there's a way that typically a black man is portrayed on the television. He said, then you fast forward this kid through his life, and he may go to a college where he's still not surrounded by people that are different from him. He said, then he joins the academy, and he said that the academy puts up videos of real life stories, and he said a lot of those stories are of people of color. And he said, all throughout these years, you're just developing a bias against a certain group of people, and you don't even realize it. And now, next thing you know, this guy graduates from the academy, and he's placed in an area where it's mostly black and brown people. And before you know it, you're pulling somebody over at night, and you're scared to death as a police officer because you haven't had any encounters with someone that looks different from you. And he is learning and hearing the experience of a guy like Sean, different experience that go on in our country. You hear things like that, and from another, although that's different. I remember growing up in my neighborhood, and a cop came around and happened, but was asking different people if anyone had saw anything. And one of the older kids that were around me was just like, "Hey, when the cops come around, don't say anything to them." And that's in as kids that we learn that cops aren't our friend and that they're here to do something bad to us. And obviously, as you grow up, you realize, yeah, of course, all cops aren't bad. There are some good cops. And I think, like what you guys are both saying, when you talk about accountability, how do you get good cops to the top and you get the back cops down? I think that's missing because that's people that don't. There are cops that are really good cops, but how do we filter this thing out without just generalizing everybody? This or that. That's been the learning experience.
I agree. And I would say to jump in and have an opinion about this system has been easy because what we do for a living, like we're no different in what we do every day. We play a sport that is dominated by black and brown people. 70 to 80% of those people that play in the games are black and brown. Head coaches, it's less than 5 head coaches, less than 5 general managers, no owners of color. So, you know, when we talk about this system, it works the way America works. You know, we can pick any top organization, anything you choose, schooling, that's the way it works. So I think it's very important for people with a voice to stand up and scream when D.A. Rollins does something that helps black and brown people. When lawyers like Rosemary jump out there and make a difference, like it's important for us to get out there and speak about those things so people don't only see the negative things out there. Go back.
I am actually going to go back and actually show you back in when this happened, what happened to him, like the preface it, like the pre what happened. We're talking about as he is out of jail and was acquitted. We're gonna go back a little bit and I'm gonna show you what happened to this man. It was deplorable what happened to this man. And you guys, if you guys don't know the story, it's tragic. Let's go back. There's only a few more minutes of this.
Go back. I'll do that. And I think that's the key to trying to get this the right way.
Rada, can I just add, when we see leaders like the McCourtys, and when we look back in our history with the Jesse Owenses, the Muhammad Alis, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, the Billie Jean Kings, the Megan Rapinoes, right? Sports has always been a place where people can use their platform, and we are really, really fortunate that we have these two people that, I, as a candidate, and I was just texting actually with one of the other candidates, Shannon McAuliffe, the excellent criminal defense attorney that was on that panel you guys put on, who has been in this work for a really long time, just how one person can change and shift what happens in a circumstance. So although Shannon didn't end up being the DA, her being a great criminal defense lawyer and having been in MACDIL or CPCS or being on the murder list or understanding all of those things, she shifted the entire way that our DA race went, because she was raising the bar for many of the rest of us. And I just think with you guys, McCourtys, I'm not saying you're Muhammad Ali, so just both of you knock it off, right? But I am saying the work you're doing here, testifying in front of our legislature. And what you didn't say was it used to be 7 years old, but as a result of you guys speaking to the legislature, the age was raised to 12, right? And yeah, there were a lot of other people that did it, but they pay attention when people like you walk in. So we appreciate all the work you're doing.
So you mentioned part of why you wanted to do this is because you want to actually create change. I think that was one of the first things that Rosemary said. And people who have watched Trial 4 and who are here, the vast majority of people who are here have watched it. They've expressed being shocked, angry, frustrated, disillusioned, and sad. And I want to talk about people, regular people platforms, how their energy into change, and what power do you have individually, collectively make a difference? Should they start? Sort of, the thing that really was for, I wanted to give you a chance to start and talk about the ideas that you have. Bring people.
So one of the first that people can, so that everybody understands. So to the extent that we need to do, he wants to do. We need people, the actual communities on juries, the juries to reflect, a fair cross section of the community. And in order to do that, A, you have to show up, and B, you have to be willing. And what I want to tell people is that just because you've had a bad experience, officer, that should not exclude you from jury duty forever. They're going to ask you a question that is, would you believe the testimony of a police officer over that of a civilian witness? And if your answer to that is yes, it doesn't mean automatically that you get excluded from jury service. If you tell the judge that, yes, you've had this bad experience, it's a part of who you are, you didn't ask for it, it just happened, but you can remain fair and impartial, then it's up to the lawyers to decide whether or not you get to stay. And so don't let that interaction, that life experience that you've had, prevent you from serving on jury duty. And then as to all of the young people out there, just make sure that when you show up for jury duty, when you're there, when you're in the courtroom, understand that you have a voice and that your voice should be heard. And I know that especially college age kids, try to do your jury service in the summer because it's going to be more than 1 or 2 days. They lie when they say it's 1 or 2 days. It's not true. But we need people of, a true cross section of the community on our juries routinely. We're still pushing to make sure that under excluded. And so what can you do about that? You can't go to the courts these days because it's a social media. Comment on what you see. You have such power in social media to make change. You've proven it. We changed who the president was, and it was mostly the young people out there that did that. And so take charge, stand up, be counted. and have that voice. If you think it's wrong that jurors under 30 are being excluded from jury duty, you happen to be a juror that's excluded, or you just step up and speak about it. Talk about it, because if we stick the conversation going, then maybe something happens. In addition, I think that there should be real civilian review boards for wrongful convictions. Right now, there are wrongful conviction unit in every DA's office, but the district attorney's office has complete control over who gets to be evaluated to be, and they don't have the subpoena power that a review board would have. If we had a review board that was a real cross section of the community, including some real, young people on this review board, and they had the power to subpoena records, supply to them and say, hey, here's the situation here. I was wrongfully convicted, and I've been trying to get these for 12 years, like in John's case. Can you take a look at my case? If they had the power to subpoena records, to get records from the police departments and from different crime scene services, maybe people don't spend as long in jail as they would have if they actually had the access to the information. Because one of the other statistics that we should talk about is the fact that in cases where wrongfully convicted, very often it's a delay in access to information. And so when you are convicted and you are trying to get access to, in our case, it was, the tip line tips. 12 years it took us before we actually got access to them. It was internal affairs records of police officers, almost 14 years. They had this information, and they had it in their police department, and they never shared it. And the fact that they didn't share it with anyone for that long resulted in Sean spending all that time in jail. And so we need to hold them accountable. We need a board that has some teeth. And when I say teeth, I don't just want them investigating the fact that police may have done something wrong in the community. I think there should be a separate, exclusively wrongful convictions, a place where people can go that perhaps don't have any money, that don't have any help anywhere else, and get this board to actually look into the wrongful convictions in this case. And I think if we start, registering people to vote, if we start getting people to serve on jury duty, if we start, really just being so social and vocal about what's happening in the jury system, maybe we prevent some of the wrongful convictions. And then on the other side, if we hold these police officers in law enforcement agencies accountable for not turning over information that they're supposed to turn over by these.
I mean, am I on? Hold on. Ugh. Look at all of, hold on. Why can't I see myself? This has so many, this is all over the country. Look at the Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson. They're not turning over discovery to the defense because there's some tomfoolery happening, right? Our system is systematically flawed, okay? Systematically flawed, and we need to drain the swamp and get people who have the American interest in mind, okay? We need to have this systematically in mind to make sure that the American people are being treated fairly. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, especially if you are a US citizen. You are innocent until proven guilty. This is not how this works. Look at poor Sean Ellison. Do you know that he had a horrific stutter that they used against him to get him convicted? What's that? What is that? Because if it was me and you would be in Framingham. Okay? We didn't have Karen Reed money. We didn't have Turtle Boy advocating. We didn't have the entire Massachusetts and the world backing us, because I guarantee you that wouldn't happen for us, and we'd be in fucking Framingham or Shirley Max for something that we didn't do because our state didn't want to do the job appropriately, because it didn't go against what they said when they were trying to get into office. Am I lying? It's maddening, kids. It is maddening.
These civilian review boards, then we're making some progress towards good. Because right now, if we're just going to depend on internal affairs and anti-corruption to discipline people who have absolutely violated their trust of the public and violated their duty to turn over exculpatory evidence, we're just going to keep spinning our wheels. And again, we saw it in trial 4 when the police officers were testifying or speaking and saying this was a great investigation. There was nothing wrong with this investigation. And we spent literally 8 hours of talking about what's wrong with this investigation, but that's what's wrong. If you can completely deny that it exists, you don't have to take any accountability. So if we had a mechanism to make sure that they were being held accountable, not just by indicting Rachel, but by a real looking into these cases and saying, okay, everyone who was involved with Mulligan, Asara, Robinson, Brazel, we need to look at their cases. If they're still sitting in jail, we need to look at their cases. Keeler, Detective Dan Keeler, the Mr. Homicide. And he was Mr. Homicide for a good 20 years until someone started asking, why is he closing so many cases? And it turned out he was lying. He was saying things that weren't true. He was getting people to say things that weren't true. And there are still hundreds of people sitting in jail today because of Detective Keeler's actions. And so what are we doing about that? And so I can tell you that Roder and I are trying to compile lists of all of his cases to see if we can find a pattern, but we don't have the power to subpoena the information that we need. And so we need a body that's going to be able to do that for us so that we can move this forward and effectuate change.
Thank you, Roder. Can I jump in for a sec? So word is what I'll say is like word, but with respect to registering to vote, very important, jury duty and grand jury, right? So like when I look at my grand juries in Suffolk County, which are 23 individuals, if we have a really good cross section of people inside of a grand jury, they're going to hold us to a higher level before they return an indictment called the true bill as opposed to a no bill. And when we talk about impaneling a jury, Rosemary, now that there is a Black woman running the DA's office in Suffolk County, I don't want to hear we had one Black juror and that was enough, right? Like our boards and commissions that we have, it's like, oh, we have diversity. There's a white woman on our board. It's like, okay, that was good 20 years ago. No, we need not just gender, but also race and LGBTQ and ability and all of these other things with respect to that. Regarding the Civilian Review Board, I think that is absolutely important and they have the power, but we've created the Integrity Review Bureau, right? Which is different. We don't only look at claims of actual innocence. We look at constitutionally flawed convictions. We look at ethical violations. We look at things where Arnie King, for example, is a man who spent 49 years behind bars. He admitted that he murdered John Labanara at the age of 18 while on drugs. But the person that was in my role back then had a policy where in cross-racial homicides, they struck all the Black jurors when the defendant was Black and the victim was white. And I will not stand behind that. So we agreed to reduce Arnie's first-degree murder to a manslaughter with time served. He had served 49 years, and 20 is the cap for what you get for a manslaughter. So we are doing as much as we can. And yeah, we have open with their civilian reward that actually does. So we actually get it, staffed, right, and up and running. But I am looking into these things as well, very differently than my predecessors did, right? We are not rubber stamping. And this is the problem, Rada, is our system prefers finality over justice every day, right? And I have said out loud, I will no longer be legally right and morally wrong. I won't do it, right? We are going to stand up and make sure that we are making decisions that are morally accurate and correct. And to Rosemary's point, some of it is intentional bias, absolutely, but we have to look at the disparate impacts, right? If Rosemary is saying that we're running criminal record checks, and we think, oh no, but we do it for everyone, and it's great. Well, what does the data show with respect to gets removed after we've seeded the jury and we've done the Corey background or the Bob. If it's 80% black and brown, that's a disparate. We need to understand, right? So we are here, and I am listening. That we're hearing not from Sean and Rosemary, but from the McCourty and Rob.
His daughter wants to come in too, and see what do you think that the people who are here, who are not prosecutors or defense attorneys like Rosemary, I mean, who the hell is, and you know, what can people do? What do you want them to do today after hearing this?
Yeah, I think one of the things is don't sell yourself short. Don't say you don't have a platform. Jay says it all the time. Everyone has a platform. And I think you're starting now by coming here, listening, educating yourself. We were fortunate. Look around you. We got to hook up with Rasan Hall from the ACLU. Go on people's websites, see what they write about, and then use your platform by going into work, talking to your coworkers about it. Jason and myself we'll be doing a virtual.
I mean, this is like totally 100% that like everybody needs to speak up. Like there are racism in this country. There is racism everywhere, okay? But equality is equality. And when I tell you that everybody should have equality within reason. Like there are some like shmup ups in this country that they are who they are, but the majority of the people in this society are genuinely good people, and they want what's best for people. They want the best of the best being doctors. They want the best being best of everything. Why can't we just do that instead of profiling people just because they're the easy target? Am I alone here? Am I alone? You know what I mean? Am I alone in this? I'm going to show you what happened to Sean Ellis back in the 90s. You guys will be horrified. And this is how Boston has rolled forever.
Virtual talk with one of my friends, his wife's job, bringing us in to talk about diversity. And I think through that, as people decide to go in their homes, we play in a sport where we have people from all across the country, the world. There's some people from deep down south of Mississippi and Georgia, and I have white teammates. They go into that home now and they speak to an uncle, a grandfather who doesn't see things the way they do because of life experiences. You've now created a new platform to tell that person, who now will tell another person. Next thing you know, they're watching Sean Ellis's trial for on Netflix. Now they have a new understanding, and you don't know who they know and what connection they have to the legal system. So I would say, everyone, don't sell yourself short. Your legislators, there's people you can call at different times to express how you feel when you think something's done wrong. And then, like everyone else said, use your power to vote.
Thank you. Jason.
Yeah, I know we're running low on time, so I won't add too much to it. I think what he said is perfect. And sometimes, like he said, a lot of people look at us and say, oh, you have this amount of followers, you play in front of a large group of people. But like he said, you can change your family right around you. You can change somebody when you're walking in the street. There's a platform for each and every one of us. When you educate yourself and you believe in what you're saying and you're confident, it can go a long way. So I would say continue to challenge yourself. Find comfort in being uncomfortable, talking about things that may rub somebody the wrong way, but you feel strongly enough to get in that uncomfortable position and really try to impact someone.
Thank you. And Sean, I want to leave the rest of the space for you. You know, you've talked about how making Trial 4 was not about you, and it was about building a movement for change. So what do you hope that people will understand and do after watching Trial 4, after being here today? We want to hear from you.
So, one of the things that wasn't manifest in Trial 4 is that at the time of the investigation into the homicide of Detective Mulligan, there was also a dual investigation into some of the investigators, some of the key investigators that played a role in the production of every critical piece of evidence that was manufactured in my case. And so as the investigation was steered towards me, to be clear, there was also simultaneously a dual investigation into Detective Robinson, Detective Sarah, and John Brazel, who was also a detective, just a detective investigating the case. And that's going to continue to happen, not just in trial 4, because it happened, and to this day, you know, I'm still fighting. I'm still fighting for that exoneration, and so every day that justice is denied to somebody who was fighting an injustice, someone who's sitting in prison for a crime that they did not commit, there's the human harm being done. I died while I was incarcerated. The who in prison that they did not commit, whose connection to society and the world and their family is a mother or is a sibling that's high in age, that has more time behind them than they do in front of them. And they're only, and that's the only hope. That's what it means to try to, you know, parent society to hear actions, the involvement of the McCourty brothers, because the connection between myself and them wasn't just made since the release of trial 4. There was a connection that was made before trial 4. Their commitment to criminal justice reform is there, and so, you know, to sum it all up and running short of time, is be an ambassador, fund organizations like the New England Innocent Project that helps to fight wrongful convictions, and definitely support there of a civilian because what my case is that when you leave people with a system to govern, like, this, putting a lot of faith, putting a lot of hope into systems, and there's not always going to be a attorney leading an office. It's Rachel Rollins, but it's the DA in Philadelphia. It's we have to move out now to ensure that the policies that are in place, the laws that are in place, are attacked to dismantle systemic and institutional racism. And I'll leave off at that.
Thank you, Sean. We actually have a couple minutes left, and I just like a quick couple words, but you know, I just want to tell people, organizations that are working towards freedom, decarceration, who are campaigning against new prisons, who are supporting mutual aid, who have formerly incarcerated people as leaders, like Sean, who is guiding policy. That is so important that you to organizations who are incarcerated. Everybody say like one word, and Sean always will have the last word. I'm going to start first with, because he basically ran out of time last time.
Just want to say I appreciate everybody on here, and Sean, I appreciate you for your resilience. We always talk about in football overcoming adversity and continue to persevere, and watch out for getting from you this year through the team. That's the definition of resilience, perseverance, to continue to fight every single day. I have no idea. I can't even fathom what those 22 years were like for you, but just appreciate what you're doing now of giving back. And we're all trying to do that, and you're leading the charge, and you inspire so many people. Just hearing you talk and getting a chance to watch Trial 4, you inspired us to help and do certain things that we can. So I just want to say thank you. I'll keep it brief. Exonerate Sean Ellis, straight like that.
Great.
Well, we will on March some announcement of our lives, guys, right? I need co-conspirators. I want you to be very active in what it is that you're demanding from us. And one of the things I'm proud of is, rather than yelling at people to hire returning citizens, I am hiring some of, so that when of industry in Massachusetts and the Amazon or the city of Boston or the state are saying, oh, we can't, as the chief law enforcement officer and somebody, if I can, you can, right? So we need to continue these conversations. Sean, the grace and dignity and decency you display every day, you are a better person than I am. And I just, I'm sorry that the system failed you. And I have made that very clear that I believe firmly that it did. And we will see what happens, but thank you.
So what I just want to thank everyone here, all people who paid tonight. Thank you to the McCourty brothers for being able to participate and for being a voice. You guys probably have the biggest voice of everybody here. You have huge followings, you're athletes, and it's just, hear that and that you care about the justice system and that you can make a difference. One tweet is going to go way further than anything that we can do. And so I'm just so grateful that you were participated. I loved hearing the experiences that I really appreciate Rachel, you being here and be able to. But more than anything, Sean, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for sharing your story. It's just such, the reason that we got involved in Trial 4 was to share your story, to inspire others. I think you've done a fabulous job of sharing your story and inspiring others to change. We have heard from people all over the world after having watched Trial 4, not just in the United States, but all the world. Just amazed at Sean's resilience, amazed at how powerful he is when he speaks, and amazed at the idea that he can be a product of change. That he's not bitter and got out of jail and fell in a gutter somewhere. He is holding his head high every day. He's working every day. He's trying to effectuate change. He's out there doing toy drives and for Christmas. He's volunteering at the New England Innocence Project. He delivers meals to the homeless. He's just he is the epitome of a second chance.
So I am going to come back up here. I am going to show you guys what it was like for Sean Ellis back then. Okay. It was bad. It was bad. This poor boy. All right. Sean Ellis arrest in the 90s. Hold on, kids. Let's see if they even have it. All right. So I cannot find. We're gonna play this one. We are gonna play this one.
For more than a quarter century, 22 of those years in jail, that he did not murder a Boston police detective.
My fourth trial, I want to be vindicated. I want to be exonerated. But I don't trap the Boston police. I need to hear everything that went on in the case. Everything. I definitely want the world to know that I'm innocent.
But that opportunity never came. Now, for those who don't know the case, investigators said Detective John Mulligan was on detail and sleeping in his car in front of a Walgreens in Roslindale when he was in the field following a robbery back in '93. Ellis, then 19 years old, was quickly arrested and tried for Mulligan's murder. The first two trials ended in hung juries that convicted Ellis of weapons possession. Then in a trial, convicted of robbery and sent to life without parole. But later, two Boston police detectives, pivotal to the case against Ellis, Robinson and Kenneth, pled guilty to corruption charges. Another corrupt cop got immunity in exchange for witness testimony and physical evidence they'd found. In 2015, his murder conviction was overturned. Ellis was released on bail and a fourth trial ordered. But then in 2018, prosecutors dropped the charges. And while that made Sean Ellis a free man, it also meant he never did get that fourth trial and his chance to prove his innocence. So he's taken his case directly to the public instead via Netflix, where he and his lawyers lay out 193 and everything since. Along with jurors, police officers, journalists, including some clips from this show. Right now, on is Scapillo. This is Director Raquel. Welcome to all.
Thank you.
Sean, why'd you agree to be the subject of an?
That's an amazing question. It's there's a problem in this country, and when I think about what is going on with Black and brown people within this criminal justice system, with mass brutality, shed, because it isn't about Sean Ellis. It's about those who are continuously being victimized by the criminal justice system.
Remy, what drew you to Sean's story?
Well, first of all, we just want to know that we're a whole team. I mean, there was several people who were drawn to Sean's story. Allison Luchak and Ben Travers, amongst others, were the producers who came on who found the story originally. It's a story that had just so many incredible storytelling elements. I mean, Sean's story, the Boston police story, the corruption, things we learned through Rosemary as well about how all this was hidden, how documents were hidden from the prosecution for so long. And so you look at this story, and you look at this young 19-year-old man who was accused of this horrendous murder. I mean, the murder itself is horrendous. It was an execution-style murder. 5 bullets in the face, and the fact that this young man was accused after he went to the police spontaneously and said, "I was just there buying diapers." And he could have been a witness and said, the perfect usual suspect. So all those elements said, "Wow, this is a strong story."
So, Rosemary, I see that Sean jumped into it. Obviously, Remy did too. I assume the one with the reservations was the lawyer. Am I right, or were you totally
that's
into this
absolutely
too?
right. As a criminal
figured.
defense attorney, I didn't want anyone following Sean or having any access to him, especially without me being there. But Sean and I had a long conversation, and he thought that it was important to tell this story, and I thought it was important to make sure that the next jury that was going to hear this case was going to hear it in a way that they would have the full picture in terms of what was happening. And we fought really hard to get the documents that we got so that we would be ready for a full trial before Pappas dismissed the case.
So, Sean, did you see this documentary as the fourth trial? You never had an opportunity to prove your innocence because, as Rosemary just mentioned, acting DA Pappas, when they dropped the charges, both he at the time and the current police commissioner, and the police commissioner then Gross, went out of their way to say they were absolutely not saying that you were innocent. In fact, they were saying the contrary. So was this essentially your fourth trial?
Well, I can't take credit for that concept. But it's just really a documentation of my life, in part in the injustice that was faced, and what has come about is what essentially has turned out to be a fourth trial.
Yeah. Remy, a lot of people at the end of the episodes, you have a list of people who were intimately involved in this, many of them on the wrong side, who refused to talk to you. What is that what message is conveyed by that? What were you trying to say?
Well, it was basically to say that it was teamwork. As I said, it's a journalistic work. We went and looked and talked to everybody. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, we have, I could go on to Ralph Martin, Mel King, Mayor Flynn from the time to get, Ted Landsmark. We talked, we did our due diligence, as you would say in the law, but we just looked at everything, and we looked at every document we get our hands on. And like in the stories, Rosemary took 10 years to get documents through FOIAs. We took a year to get some of the documents we wanted to look at too. So even if we're not, a lawyer, no one's in prison because of us. But we talked to a lot of people, and certain people said, yeah, we're going to go on camera. We'll accept that. And a lot of people said yes, and then disappeared. And other people just said, no way, not in Boston. I'm not going to go on camera. Those police officers are afraid of blowback. So it tells you a lot about the story.
What did it tell you, Rosemary? You know all the players. I'm sure those names carried a lot of meaning for you, that the people who refused to cooperate. What did it say to you?
It told me that the people who refused to cooperate had something to hide. And we're still in a position now where we're trying to get Sean's conviction reversed as well, so that he is no longer a convicted felon. And right now we're in negotiations with the district attorney's office to try to pick up where we left off in terms of talking about this case. And I can tell you that when she first took office, Rachel Rollins and I had a conversation about Sean's case. And at that time, her priority in her office was actually people who were currently incarcerated fighting to get out, like the Keon Sprinkles and the Ronnie Qualls of the world that she was working on. But I expect that we're going to continue to talk about trying to get rid of Sean Ellis's gun conviction, because he didn't do it, and he shouldn't be a convicted felon because of this case.
I had her on the radio with me just the other day, and I had her on immediately after she was elected. She said she was going to look into a whole bunch of cases. I said, did that include Sean Ellis's? She said it might. What she said to me the other day is, I'm not going to say that, Jim. When I said, what are you doing about this case? I'm just telling you that this will not be the last time you hear my voice on this issue. We're looking at everything that has happened here. When she said that, and she wouldn't tell me what specifically, is it around the gun charges, or what exactly is it,
my focus.
or is it broader?
I would love to see Sean exonerated. That would be a dream come true to him and to me.
Could she do that? Could she do that?
Absolutely, she could. But
why are you not pushing her to do that?
Out from underneath the gun conviction, and that's what we're working on now. And like I said, we had talked initially when she took office, and she was busy working on other cases where people were still in jail for having not committed a crime, and that was her focus. And now I think that she's more focused on what's happening with Sean, the injustice in the system, and the way that her office was portrayed in trial 4 was horrific. I mean, because it was true.
So do you have hope? So Rosemary, do you have hope that she could ultimately declare exoneration for Sean?
I think she could. I don't know if she will, but I think she could, based on all of the evidence that's been developed in this case. And to give Sean the opportunity to not be a convicted felon, go and live the rest of his life as the person he is, and not drag that chain on this gun conviction that we all know. You either believe he did it or you didn't. And there is no in between. There's no gray area here at all.
Do you know who did it?
I'm not. But I know no one's looking for them. So that's a problem.
Sean, I know you're sick of me asking this question. Every time you're here, I ask you the same question because I can't believe your answer, which is you spent 22 years of your life in jail for something that you say relentlessly you did not do. I always ask you, why are you not, even your mother in the film says he's not angry. Why are you not angry that half of your life was taken away for something you say you didn't do?
So allow me to explain this. Like, it's not that I'm angry. It's not that I'm not angry, Jim. It's when I watch the documentary, it's like there's feelings inside of me that arise. But what I'm saying is, what does it do? Like, how would it serve me to walk around and bitter and just weighed down? Like that isn't who I am as a person. And so, like, to do that, then what?
You're a better person than me, Sean Ellis, but I guess that's pretty obvious. Hey, Remy, what do you want the viewer to take? I'm sorry, go ahead, Sean.
So, Jim, like, let me, when you walk around, like when you're upset, can you envision yourself walking around feeling that way for the rest of your life? Like that's a heavy reality to walk around with.
Yeah.
And like I'm making a conscious decision to try to work on and heal myself from the inside out.
It comes through, Sean. Quickly, Ray, we're short on time. What do you want people to take away from these 8 hours?
I would like them to take away what Sean is talking about and what Rosemary is talking about. There, people can change. People can. Through the vote, they can actually change. They can vote in a new DA. They can vote in. Want them to, this is. I'm a conduit through which we're going to tell a story of injustice, systemic racism, and this mass. That's what I want them to take. And this is Sean and Rosemary's story. I just want them to really live that story. Yeah, and emotionally live it, because it's an emotional story. I was watching episode 8 with my family just a little while ago in France, and I'm still in tears. It's just when Pappas and Gross got up there and said what they said at that dismissal, I had to go to tears. I mean, it's a great moment. Sean's free, but he's not exonerated, and that's just so damn unfair. It's really unfair, and I want people to get, and people are getting it. That's it.
And Sean said he's doing it for people beyond himself. Your timing could not be better. Sean, I only have 30 seconds. Can we end on an up note here? Tell people what you're doing, if that's okay with you. You're working for a wonderful organization.
Yeah, so I am part of the development team at Community Servings. Community Servings essentially is a nonprofit organization that provides medically tailored meals for the sick and infirmed. And so I shouldn't be saying too much without authorization, but it's a great option. Right now we're actually in a major drive called Pie in the Sky, and so you can go on our website at communityservants.org and purchase a pie for a client, and you can select me as the seller.
Hey, Sean, I ordered 2 pies while I'm watching the film yesterday, so I'm all covered. And by the way, Sean just got a promotion. He's too humble to say it. Rosemary Scapicchio, Remy Burkell, and Sean Ellis, thank you. And I urge everybody to watch every minute of those 8 hours. Thanks to all three for being here.
Thanks
Thank
very
you,
much.
Jim. Thank you, WGBH. Thank you very much.
The series again is Trial 4, and you can see it on Netflix right now.
Still muted? Am I muted? What I was saying, I want to go through all of these things. Anything you guys want to talk about, including Laura Matthias, Trisha, yeah, any type of YouTube drama. You know your girl's good at that. But I also want to I want to talk about things that matter in this state, in other states. I am not strictly for Massachusetts. I want to do it all over the place. So if you were in a different part of the country and you want me to talk about something, I will research and we will talk about it, babies. We will talk about it. I was just saying that I'm having some medical problems and I have been on leave of absence from work. Don't really want to get into it, but you guys can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? My little guy is having surgery next week and I'm panicked. We're out of work and I am going to need an outlet to really just kind of like center myself while I am panicked for my 5-year-old to have surgery. So, if you guys just simply like keeping me company is great. And I promise I will try my best to come on here and talk some shit and talk some sense into government. If you guys do not know Mike Urban, he is a Massachusetts podcaster. He's unbelievable. So go give him a like and some watches. Yeah, baby Grunk will be okay. He's going to be in double casts in a wheelchair for like 6 weeks. So mama's scared. We're having a tough time. That's why, I'm not asking for donations because I feel bad for myself, but you guys do want to join my channel and we can be the family that I love us being, that would be great too, but it's not required. And I just want you guys here. I love all of you guys' input. You guys are the bee's knees of the internet. We have the best community here. We just do. And I will be forever grateful for every single one of you that come here and just shoot the shit with me. And we talk about things that matter in and around Massachusetts, New England, and other places. You guys let me know. You can reach out to me actually on Facebook. I'm Amy Boston. You guys can friend request me. We can talk about different things you guys want to talk about, and I'm about it. So definitely do that. I'm on Instagram. I'm on all those things. I'm on all those things. And I truly do love you, and I love your community. We may not be a big channel, but we're going to get there. We are definitely going to get there. I love you guys, and we've been on for almost 3 hours, kids. So I gotta go. I gotta get my boy off the bus. But I love you, and hopefully I'll be back later on tonight if baby Grunk allows me to. All right. I love you guys. Thanks for being here, and I will see you guys